It's a wonderful evening where we have a special speaker, Dr. Doreen Muriu. I must mention Dr. Gloria. She is the one who connected me, and I can see she is here. Okay, karibu sana daktari. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Good evening, Royal Youth. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Brother Matthew, for inviting me to come and talk to your youth. And as many as you can, if you can put on your camera, at least I see some faces so that I know I'm talking to real people. I'm not talking to, when I see, I'm just seeing darkness here and there. So please, if you can, just show your face. That will be very encouraging to me. As you've heard, my name, I'm Doreen Muriu. I'm married. I have children. I have 4 children, 3 biological and 1 adopted. And by God's grace, everything has been fine. Thank you those who are showing your faces. So today, I am a lecturer at the moment. I lecture in business studies. My background has been mainly in strategic management. Unlike very young people that you decide very early in your life that I want to do this, I just found myself in several places ending up in strategy. The last 2 employments that I was in, I worked in marketing and ended up exiting the organization through strategy. And therefore strategy has been my area of interest. Not by design, I just found myself there. And today I want us to look at unprecedented times. I think we are in unprecedented times that we are in unprecedented times. And what we can say is, going through unprecedented times, we need to start over again. Starting over again is normal for any leader in a mission. And what I know is that the people that are here are people that are on a mission. And so when anything happens, then you will have to start again. I have started again several times in my life, and it has been God that has seen me through. So we can now say that we could be in unprecedented times because of 19. Why do we say that? We have job losses, we have business closures, we have broken relationships, many things are happening in homes. And therefore, everyone is stretched thin between business demands, personal and family concerns. And therefore, there's a lot of uncertainty ahead. We don't know what we are supposed to do. There is no manual. You see, unlike certain things, there are manuals, after this is what's going to happen. But in this case, we don't have any manual. We don't know what is going to happen next. So because of the uncertainty that is there, behaviors also will shift. And when behaviors shift, then we need to be flexible, we need to be resilient, and then we need to focus on adaptive execution. Adaptive execution is implementation as you go along. You adapt to the situation that is there. Now I can say as we start that whatever life throws at you, you do not deny it. You do not try to avoid it. Do not pretend that it's not there. Accept that it's there. Raise your head up and walk proudly. Now, what I want to do, I'll be talking about some unprecedented circumstances. I'll also give you examples of my own life, times when I've had challenges, yet I've seen God through. I've seen God see me through. But before I do that, I just want to show you some two brands that I want us to look at. When I talk about having been strategy, I can just talk very briefly about organizations, about companies, and then we see what will happen, what it is. So when we look at this brand, in the year 2002, this is where it was. This is the logo that they had. And over a period of time, they have progressed, they have changed over time. At this point, this organization wasn't doing very well. It could have been going down. There are many non-performing loans and many other things associated with unprecedented circumstances. But let's just hold it, just park it there. Let's see the next one. The next one, you can see the next one. I don't know if you saw the logo or our pictures are hiding it. Okay, so we go to the text. Let's go to the text, and then very quickly, I've said that a simple look at the two brands, 2003 to 2020, the same brand is completely transformed. It's one of the leading, the largest, the leading, and not only in Kenya, but in the region as well. The other one, in the year 2016, it encountered certain problems. And the problems were mainly associated with governance. But now, 2020, we can't say that it's still in the same place. So how have the changes been? Can we say that the changes have been drastic? Yes. These two organizations had options. They could have sat there and said, things are not working well, let's close shop and let's move on. But they made a decision, and that's what we call a strategy. They made a decision and they changed different things that they used to, which we can't, I can't start giving details now, but I know this is in the open and I'm sure you have also read. So both organizations changed their strategy. Was there any single script to follow to survive? No. But I can just summarize. Okay, when organizations get to a point where they're going down, what are some of the reasons? Let's look at some of the reasons that they can encounter. Ordinarily, we can say that it can be associated with either economic recessions, the country is not doing well, the economy is not doing well. It can be associated with production inefficiencies where the organization is not doing well in terms of how it's producing its products or services, or like the second brand, it was more of governance issues. So those are some of the things that can make organizations get to that point. But number three, it could be innovations. A competitor may innovate better than the other company, and based on that, then the company can go down, profitability goes down, and the rest follows. Now, currently, where are we? Currently, we are in what we call COVID-19. We have seen the impact, the results of COVID-19. So without going into details of all that, we know that that is where we are. What then do companies do in that situation? What do? They have many options that they can pick from. What are some of the options? Now, as I give some of the options that the organizations will pick, I'm transferring this to our lives as human beings and saying that we can also relate this to our lives. So one, they can cut down the unnecessary activities, the things that they feel are costly, they are not necessary, so they can cut those ones down. So the organizations will check the income and look at the expenditures in order to do away with whatever the business does not urgently need. And that also can come to our lives. What happens when COVID hits us? What do we do? What are some of the things that we will have to cut off? What are the expenditures that we are going to cut off so that we can remain relevant wherever we are? Number two, they can also have the right business model. So they can change their model. And now with this, I also bring it back to ourselves and say, what is your model? What are you made of as a person? What is your vision? Organizations have visions, they have missions. What is your mission? What do you stand for? As John passes by, what can we say? Is there something that stands out for you? And that is something that one has to develop so that it's very clear what it is that you stand for. Now, those I've just picked two. So the third one that an organization can take is what we call differentiation. The organization can differentiate itself from other organizations. So as a person also, how can you differentiate yourself? In this extraordinary circumstances where we are in, things change, many things happen. Are you going to get crushed by the current economic tremors? Will you allow it to put you down? Experiences of failure ought to strengthen you and offer you a map of what has and what hasn't worked before, and not an excuse to close down. I know many times when things become tough, people give up. But if organizations can transform and be more profitable, and organizations don't work with machines, they work with human beings. So if you and myself are part of the people that can transform those organizations, we can also transform ourselves. When things become tough, we have to stop and say, where are we? As human beings, we must come with our own turnaround strategy and stop living in fear of the unknown. He said, as I started, we said that with COVID-19, there's no manual of what's going to happen next. But can we put in place some of the strategies of turnaround for our lives? Just like those two organizations had turnaround strategies and have continued to be successful. So let's stop living in fear of the unknown and differentiate ourselves, do something that will change us. Businesses are built to last, and so are we. We are built to last, we are not built to fall. So we should be alive, we should realize that when God created us, He created us so that we could survive anything that comes our way. Okay, let's park the business environment. Let's come to human beings and look at some of the biblical perspectives. I want to bring a story of a lady called Naomi. Naomi went away from her country. She was in Bethlehem. She left her home country at a time when there was famine. Naomi left with her husband called Elimelech and her two sons called Malon and Chilion, and they went to Moab. When they were in Moab, after 10 years, the men that were in her life passed away, her husband and her two sons. She was left with two daughters-in-law. As it said, east-west, home is best. Having gone through those extraordinary circumstances, Naomi came back to her, decided on her own that it was time to go back home. As she came home, when she met people were wondering because Naomi was completely changed. But Naomi said she went away full and came back empty and told them, don't call me Naomi anymore, call me Mara. But Naomi did not come back alone. Naomi came back with her daughter-in-law called Ruth, a Moabite. Now she's saying that she has come back empty, but we can agree that she didn't come back empty. She came back with her daughter-in-law. They came to Bethlehem at the beginning of the barley harvest. Naomi chose to be negative. She focused on what was wrong in her life instead of what was right. I just want to get back to you. I want to ask, do you think Naomi was right in saying that she came back empty? is there anything positive that we can say Naomi had? Was Naomi stripped of everything completely? I want a volunteer. Was Naomi stripped completely of everything? Yes, thank you, thank you. Gloria, she had God. Julius has said no. You can unmute and just say something. Was she completely stripped of everything? Can we say, is there anything else that she had? She had God. She had a new daughter-in-law. What else did she have? Okay, I guess, yes, someone wants to say something. What else did she have? She had relatives. Okay, good. Okay, let's continue. She had I want you to look at this for yourself. What was Naomi left with? First, they were negative. She lost her two sons. She lost her husband. What was positive? And when you add the negative and the positive, it will equal what Naomi was. So, but for this case, for yourselves, I want you at your own time list some of the negative things that you have in your life. List what are positive, total them, and it will equal to your total being at that given time. Now, let's very briefly, Naomi, we can't say that she lost everything. She had a hometown to come back to. And as Gloria has said, she had relatives. There were people who knew her and welcomed her. There was food in her hometown, that's in Bethlehem. Bethlehem was called the house of bread. There was food there. She returned with a woman who was committed to Naomi's welfare. And she came at a good time. She came back at the right season when there was barley harvest and there was wheat, and therefore there was food. So there were some negative things, but there was still some positive things. So she wasn't seeing these positive things. So most of the time when we are hit by certain circumstances, sometimes we focus mainly on the negatives instead of focusing on the positives. As I talk now, we know that this is a group that has younger people. Ruth was a Moabite, but she had a decision to make here. She could have stayed at home with her family. She could have stayed in the place that she knew was comfortable. I mean, she had a comfort zone, she had family, but she went with this lady that she knew she didn't have a husband, she didn't have anything, she had been away for 10 years, but she still chose. Why did she choose? And remember, at the end of it, Ruth's name appears in the Bible. The Bible tells us that Christ was actually born in the lineage of Ruth. So that young lady that decided to follow this lady had something happening in her life. We have her name in the Bible. So at this age, wherever you are as a young person, your decisions would determine your later life. Because I've talked about ladies, I think it will only be fair to talk about David. Now, David was a shepherd boy. He was Jesse's youngest son. And when God told Samuel to go and anoint a king for Israel, Jesse brought all his sons, and Samuel kept rejecting one after the other. Finally, he asked, "Don't you have another son?" And David was brought and he was anointed. The Bible tells us that after David was anointed, from that day on, the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon David. And when David, of course, continued to do his work, being a shepherd, but at one point, the father sent him to go and see his brothers who are in the battleground. When he went there, he found Goliath, who had vile words against the God of Israel. And he tried asking, what's going on? What's all this about? And the brothers, of course, tried to push him aside, but he pushed them aside and still went ahead to find out what is going on. And the Bible tells us he actually volunteered to fight and to kill Goliath. And he killed Goliath. Now, the Bible also tells us something about David. David, after being anointed as the king, stayed for many years before he became a king. He stayed for 15 years. So what happened in the 15 years that David was not king? He was busy running away from Saul, fighting in battles. And at this point, I just wonder, if David could stay for 15 years, how long are you willing to stay in a difficult situation? And since I mentioned that I was going to bring in some of my experiences, one of the experiences that I have has been, I think I'll start when I was here. I hear there are some people that have finished high school, there are some people waiting to go to campus, there are people who have been to campus, there are people that are working. Now, during my time of course you've seen that I'm called Dr. Doreen, but when I finished high school, I was supposed to go to university. Things happened. I was good during my school days, but I had one thing that was very strong. Exams were do or die. So when I went to the exams, it was like, this is the beginning or the end of me. And for some reason, some exams I didn't, because of that, I panicked and I didn't do well. The difference here is those days, if you finished school, you could easily get a job. So I got a job. As I waited, in fact, I've already jumped to tell you that the results came and I didn't pass. So I'm working, by December, you finish in November, by December or January, I was already working, waiting for the results. So the results come and I haven't passed. Here I am. I'm working. Everybody knows that maybe you are supposed to pass. I'm a Christian. I'm saved. I'm the CU secretary from my school. I was a prefect. And here I am. I have not passed. And in the day, I'm supposed to go to work. So what do I do? While working in the day, I'll be very happy, just make everybody think that everything is okay. But when I go home, I go and sit down and I ask God, God, where were you when I was failing? What happened? Why is it that you didn't want me to go to university? You know, all those things I did, and I asked God, and of course I did. He never answered me with, that big thunder and say, this is why. But I continued. But after the first year where I was working, I decided, I knew this wasn't where I was meant to be. You know, when you are in a place, you do routine things, you do the same thing, you can almost do it with your eyes closed. And by the way, I still remember each and every sentence that I used to write in the place that I used to work. I knew it wasn't, so I started applying to go to colleges, and the colleges were not coming through. And this time again, I looked at the secretary there, and they were typing this thing without looking, and I said, wow, this looks like a magical thing to do. So I decided, in the evenings, let me be going for typing. Remember now, I'm free, I don't have a lot of work, and a bit sad also. So if I can get something to be doing, then that would help me. So I went for typing, and the typing was using the manual machine. So you type like this, you swing it like this, you type like this. By the way, I learned how to type, and that one, I didn't know that it was an investment for later in life. And that typing, knowing how to type on the screen, on the keyboard without looking, became a blessing later in my life. As I learned that, okay, then let me just cut this story short. Several years passed. I still remained in the same spot, doing the same job. Then I realized there was another job that was being advertised in the newspapers, and it required people that had graduated. It required graduates only. But I decided to apply. Remember, I'm not a graduate, but I decided to apply, and it was a training, a one-year training, and I applied. To cut a long story short, I was shortlisted, I was interviewed, and as called, the course was 1 year. I came for the training. In my class, we were a class of 15. 12 of those people that were in that class were my classmates, that the people that I finished with. So we met in this class. The other two had graduated earlier. The other two were ladies. They had also graduated earlier. So there were 3 ladies and 12 men. It was a bit tough. It was a bit tough for me because the course was somehow engineering related, and so some of the concepts I didn't have. So it meant I had to read and read harder. And one of the instructor, I remember him saying, "Oh, do you need help? You know, those wasn't even help. Do you need msaada? Msaada sound no. Do you need aid?" And that time was the time when AIDS had just come. So he was just trying to push me down, but in my heart I was saying, no, this is something that I must achieve. So I finished, we graduated with the entire team. Remember, these are 14 people that have gone to university. I'm the only one that has not gone to university. What was God telling me at this point? At this point, God was telling me, yes, you didn't go at that point because I didn't want you to go, but you can see the people that you did the exam together, you are here together. So that was the beginning of the miracles that I started seeing God doing in my life. The rest of the steps up to where I've been now would be a story for another day. Okay, so let's get back to David. David has been running away from Saul. So for 15 years, he was running. So I want you to take this template and always ask yourself, what are the negative things for you at a certain time? So for me, at your age, when I just finished high school, of course, I haven't passed. I don't have the kind of job that I want. And all those, what was positive? Positive was that I had a job, I had health, I was okay. I had opportunities to do other courses. So just try to do that for yourself. To conclude about David, is that we can say that us, like the rest of us, David suffered most because of his own sins. Because sometimes when we suffer, we say it could be some generational curses, something else that someone else did. But for David, some of the things were his own making. His long way to rule, however, had little to do with his father's sins. So we can also say that before God blesses someone or gives them authority of any kind, he tests them over a period of time to see if they will be worthy of the blessing and the calling. So David had to wait for these 15 years. But it wasn't by accident, it was because God was allowing that to happen so that when it finally becomes king, he would have known the value of what he has. I'll take you to another person also. So